The Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment says the government is not doing enough to fight the issues arising from coastal erosion. And Dr. Jan Wright has told us what the government is doing, it needs to do faster. Dr. Wright was responding to issues raised by Checkpoint this week as property owners in two communities on the North Island's east coast face losing their homes to rising sea levels and coastal flooding. We're attempting repeatedly to talk to the government about its response to the damage the sea is doing and will do more and more of as levels rise. No luck with the ministers so far. But Jan Wright, who operates completely independently, says the government is looking at the issues, but it's time for action, not talk, and now. As insurers become increasingly cautious around properties exposed to the sea and as councils look at compelling some homeowners to leave properties considered at serious risk, the issues of control, compensation and planning are increasingly being met by councils who say they are not equipped to do this. So we begin with a question to the Commissioner. Is the government doing enough around the issues of coastal erosion?
No. Not to say they won't, but they need to do more. They need to move faster.
That's Jan Wright, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. In 2015, she released a major report entitled Preparing New Zealand for Rising Seas. In it, she explicitly warned that coastal erosion and flooding along the coast would become more common. This week on Checkpoint, we've seen striking examples of that becoming a reality. These are people who were told their properties could be made safe. They haven't been.
We were saying in the beginning, that's never going to work. But they haven't listened to us from the beginning.
They dodge it like the plague, the truth, that you're basically buggered, move away from the coast.
We've been lied to for 12 years, strung along.
I'm just so angry with them for the 12 years of bullshit that we've put up with, of them telling us what we're going to do.
We wouldn't have sunk all our money back into this if we knew this was where it was going to end.
How do they think they can just come and make ridiculous offers and expect you to pack your bags, walk away happy? It's not going to happen.
I'm not going. I'll fight it to the end.
Which brings us back to Dr. Jan Wright, who says this is just the beginning.
We're looking at a future here where this kind of event, this kind of erosion, is going to happen more and more often, and flooding is going to happen more and more often.
At the moment, as we've learnt this week, the response is district by district, region by region. And when your region is small, with a ratepayer base struggling to support current facilities and amenities, taking on the sea is simply beyond you. Last night we asked the Mayor of the Whakatane district, do you have enough money to deal with this? And is the government doing enough to support you? Can small district councils like you cope with what you have just described as a growing crisis?
John, I will give you a straight answer. I've always given straight answers. No, we do not have enough money to do it ourselves.
That's Tony Bon, who said they don't have enough money and they will have to work in partnership with government. And down the coast, where properties on Clifton Road are being swallowed by the sea day by day, Lawrence Yule was Mayor of Hastings. He's still head of Local Government New Zealand and running in a Hawke's Bay electorate for the Nats this election. This afternoon we asked him, can district and regional councils handle this?
Well, I don't think by themselves.
And the problem is not just the scale of the problem, it's also sometimes the scale of the opposition to addressing it.
Just about every time a district or a regional council tries to put in rules to manage sea level rise or coastal erosion, then certain interests, usually development interests, challenge those decisions. And some have been overturned. And in some cases, the Environment Court actually doesn't know really what to do and has chosen a line halfway between what the council said and what the developer wants.
So individual councils and sometimes regional and district councils are at odds with each other in the same area. Developers, property owners, the Environment Court, a case-by-case, make it up as you go along kind of response. And despite the warnings, despite the science, despite the reports, we still don't have a central framework from which a response can come. Here's Dr. Jan Wright again.
We can just expect more of this, and we need to look ahead. We need to get ahead of the game and prepare, and need to make up our minds about compensation, who pays, how do you manage your managed retreat, and so on.
Are we even having those discussions at a meaningful level?
Scarcely.
So what do the ministers say? Well, once again, they don't. This week we've asked Nick Smith, the Environment Minister, and Paula Bennett, twice the Minister for Climate Change, to discuss the government's response to issues along the coast. No each time. But Paula Bennett sent us a statement a short time ago saying, and I quote, "Ultimately, this is a matter for local councils to deal with." End quote. As we've heard, the local councils are saying they can't deal with it. The Greens say the government's inaction has everyone stuck in a kind of gridlock behind them. Here's their spokesperson, Eugenie Sage.
The most recent guidance is 2008. There have been repeated promises that there will be more technical information available to councils, but the governments have failed to release it. There needs to be clear technical advice to help councils decide where coastal hazard zones are and then make the difficult decisions about whether future development should be allowed or not.
Because at the moment, councils are making these decisions council by council, case by case, and what you're saying they need is leadership from Wellington?
Exactly. And having the resources of both LINZ in terms of helping that, GNS in terms of their technical natural hazard science, because otherwise we get communities having to face these issues alone.
And let's head back to one of those communities, Hawke's Bay. There, in the absence of guidance from Wellington, they're working to create a regional template, so at least there'll be local consistency. Here's Lawrence Yule again.
The councils in Hawke's Bay have all got together, the Regional Council, Napier City and Hastings District, and have done a plan between Cape Kidnappers and Tongoia to look at sea level rise and coastal erosion, to form a set of rules and plans and strategies that are consistent across that part of New Zealand, that mean that every consent can be measured against that, and a strategy for the next 50 to 100 years can be worked out. Now, that's the first time, in my knowledge, that's been done in New Zealand.
And it's a meaningful start. But government has more money, government has more data, and New Zealand has way more coastline than any one region. And that, says Dr. Jan Wright, is why the leadership has to come from Wellington.
But we also need to get, I think, agreement across parties on how we deal with adaptation, how we adapt to a changing climate, because governments change all the time. And it's not just the people who are in power now, it's all the ones that will come after them. And we can't always be saying it's the next government's problem.
This government does have a working group looking at responses, but it's not reporting back this year. A coastal hazards and climate change guidance was due at the end of 2016. We understand it's still some way off. But, like the homeowners we've met this week, Dr. Jan Wright says the science and the sea speak for themselves.
We have to sort of stop talking about things and just considering options. We have to make some decisions and take some action.